honestly, I just want the obsessiveness to stop. Yes, of course, I want to lose the weight and I want to be happy in my body. I want all these different things that are conflicting, but if that could just quiet, like my mind could quiet and I could just stop thinking about it, that would be the most ideal, because there are very dark days when I can't get out of my head. Yeah, I don't feel as if I'm worth a lot of different things in my life. You know, I actually, so something that I do is, and this has only been in probably the last 6 months, is on my Instagram, I've been doing these stream of consciousness posts. I've never been a journaler. I'm a writer, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it. But all of a sudden I started to kind of, these certain memories sort of started to come up. And so when that would come up, I would go to my notes and just like quickly write down a paragraph of sort of the different things that are on my mind in terms of my eating disorder. And you asking about self-worth, that's why I'm bringing this up, is that I wrote a post recently saying that if I just was thinner, I'd have more clients. If I just were thinner, you know, so on and so forth. And so my self-worth is pretty depleted because I rely so much on my body to do a lot of the work in terms of making me feel better about what I'm doing.
You have this thing that comes up of, if I achieve a particular body type, then all these negative feelings will go away. I'll feel better about myself. I'll learn how to be happy with who I am. Like, where do those scripts come from for what is the ideal body type? Can you say more about like what is your prototype? Like, where does that come from?
I mean, I think it comes from my mom. And I would say that's a big part of that. Although she's told me for a really long time that I can't blame her anymore. I haven't lived with her for years. But I don't know where else it comes from, to be honest. But it's always stuck with me. Mm-hmm. Like, I have different like visuals and sort of memories of like being a kid, and you know, whether I'm like trying on a friend's jeans and the idea that they don't fit me. Mm-hmm. So like little things like that.
So that would be an interesting exploration, I think, for us to continue at some point. Mm-hmm. You know, is just like figuring out where this prototype comes from, to dissect it, because then once you really understand it, I think it makes it a little bit more achievable to start letting it go, mm-hmm. to start unlearning that so you can relearn and recompose a different ideal body, which might be the one that you're in right now. Mm-hmm. I think it's fair to want to achieve certain things, whether that's increased strength, better balance, more stamina, more endurance. Having personal goals are important. So I think it's good for you to think about like goals that are separate from, I want to lose 8 pounds. It's not really about the weight. It's, I want to be able to go up these stairs and not get winded. For you, it is, I'm hearing a lot about body image, not so much about like fitness. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, I work out 5 to 6 times a week. Mm-hmm. And so I've come to learn that like the working out piece is the consistent part. And also working out, sometimes I can, you know, that can stress me out too. If I see something on my body that I don't like, that I want to stop working out. I want to quit, but I keep moving through it. Mm-hmm. So I'm usually working out I always say that like I work out because I think it mentally makes me feel better, but honestly, like it doesn't really help with my stress. Mm-hmm. Doesn't help with like my depression. It's just something that I know I need to do to have a better day, but ultimately like all the other things are still going to bother me. Yeah. But I always think about food as being the thing that like that is what's going to make a difference. And that's come pretty recently, knowing that like the food is going to be the thing that's going to be the difference. It's not that like, you know, the 30 minutes that I worked out on Monday, I should have done an hour. And that I felt that differently in the past, but those things have changed a little bit.
Something that I think would be interesting for both of us is like, as we continue forward and have more conversations, redefining goals, right? It sounds like everything, when it comes to food, when it comes to your exercise routine and training your body, it all comes back to like how you look. So my hope and sense is that someday you'd like to also incorporate goals around health.
Yeah. And, you know, I write about that. I mean, I just wrote an article about metabolic health. You know, like these are things that I'm researching and looking into all day long. And some of those things are things that I might want to try. But I also know that like these types of things, like, you know, talking about a glucose monitor, that like that would probably might be dangerous for me at this point. And I might have not realized that, you know, a couple of years ago. It might have been something that I just sort of like did immediately. And not to say that a glucose monitor is dangerous. I think they can be really helpful for people. But for me, as someone who was already like looking at thinking about what I'm eating at all times, and the idea that I'd have to check back into something and be like more accountable than maybe I am sometimes, that it's just it could be more stressful.
Right. You're describing not wanting to become more obsessive about this thing that's already kind of impacting in a negative way a lot of areas of your life. And you know, I'm also, there's like a theme emerging here. There's a lot of conflicting things in your life. There's like a career that's really like in the world of body positivity, but you yourself are not feeling like that per se. Even the stuff that you're writing for work, I think people might have a different perception of the person that writes this when they're reading it, right? It's like maybe a persona almost. It's not quite who I'm seeing here.
It's not a first person piece. So they probably don't, you know, they're not necessarily focused on the person who's writing it so much. So, you know, something that you said about the obsessiveness of sort of the eating, and also how we were talking about how like I like want to feel good in my body, but I also want to like lose the weight, you know, that type of thing. I think honestly, I just want the obsessiveness to stop.
If you want even more videos just like this one, make sure you subscribe and click on the boxes over here. I'm also excited to let you know that you can now get my book, Think Like a Monk, from thinklikeamonkbook.com. Check below in the description to make sure you order today.